It was discovered at that time Terry Bollea, also known as Hulk Hogan, was experiencing a serious medical-related issue. Personnel provided medical treatment at that time and transported Mr. Bollea to Morton Plant Hospital, where he died at 11:17 a.m.
When the news broke that wrestling icon Hulk Hogan had been found lifeless inside his Florida mansion, the world froze. Millions who grew up watching his electric charisma in the ring couldn't believe the man who once shouted, "What you gonna do, brother?" was gone. But as the flashing red lights of emergency vehicles painted his white mansion in eerie hues, it wasn't just the tragedy of his passing that sent shockwaves across America. It was what the FBI discovered. Inside his home shortly after, authorities were initially called for what appeared to be a medical emergency, but within hours, federal agents arrived quietly, their vehicles unmarked, their presence deliberate. Something inside Hogan's house had raised red flags, and when they finally stepped through those heavy double doors, the scene before them was unlike anything anyone expected. The mansion, once a shrine to glory and fame, had become a vault of secrets, hidden rooms, cryptic letters, strange surveillance equipment, and an object that led investigators to reopen an old, forgotten case from the 1980s. Rumors spread like wildfire online, with fans and conspiracy theorists alike demanding to know what could possibly be inside the home of one of wrestling's most beloved legends. But as the truth unraveled, it revealed a side of Hulk Hogan the public had never seen, one filled with regret, paranoia, and a past that refused to stay buried. The sun had just begun to rise over Clearwater Beach, painting the ocean in streaks of gold and pink, when the 911 dispatch line received a chilling call. "This is security at Hogan residence," the voice quivered. "I think he's gone." Within minutes, emergency vehicles raced toward the sprawling white mansion perched on the edge of the bay, a place once filled with laughter, family gatherings, and the booming voice of one of wrestling's most larger-than-life personalities, Hulk Hogan. Paramedics entered through the unlocked front door and found the 71-year-old legend lying motionless in his master bedroom. He looked strangely peaceful, as though asleep after a long night. But the moment they checked his pulse, the silence that followed said everything. Hogan, the man who had defined American pop culture in the 1980s and inspired millions with his charisma, was gone. But even as medical responders began their standard procedures, something about the scene felt off. The house was far too orderly, almost sterile. His favorite leather jacket was perfectly folded at the foot of the bed. A glass of water sat on the nightstand, untouched. And yet, just down the hall, an old TV was playing a looped recording of WrestleMania 3, showing Hogan's historic slam on Andre the Giant, a match that immortalized him in sports history. When detectives arrived, they noticed several odd details. There were no signs of forced entry, yet multiple security cameras around the property had been disconnected. In the kitchen, breakfast was laid out but uneaten: scrambled eggs, toast, and a steaming cup of black coffee. Beside it was a small, unlabeled brown envelope, sealed tight. The security guard who found him told police that Hogan had been acting paranoid in recent weeks. He claimed Hogan had spoken of being watched by people he once trusted. He'd even mentioned to close friends that his mansion wasn't safe anymore. Investigators initially dismissed it as the paranoia of an aging celebrity scarred by decades of fame. But when they began their inspection of the home, they discovered something that changed everything. Down a quiet hallway near the gym was a locked door, one that didn't appear on the home's official blueprints. The keypad next to it had a faint red light blinking, as if awaiting a code. The security team refused to comment on what lay behind it, only saying it was Mr. Hogan's private space. That alone was enough to raise suspicion. Detectives noted that Hogan's recent activities had included several late-night visits from unidentified individuals. One neighbor recalled seeing 2 black SUVs parked outside the gate just days before his death. The visitors never stayed long, but they always left with folders or boxes in hand. Within hours, the local police handed the case over to the FBI, citing Hogan's previous involvement in a confidential complaint about an extortion attempt. According to that report, Hogan had claimed someone was trying to blackmail him with recordings allegedly taken from his own home surveillance system, footage, that had mysteriously gone missing weeks earlier. When federal agents arrived, they immediately focused on the mysterious locked room. After bypassing the keypad using digital forensics, they stepped into what looked like an archival vault. Lining the walls were metal shelves filled with hundreds of VHS tapes, old camcorders, and handwritten journals. There were binders marked with names of celebrities, wrestling executives, and even politicians. It was clear Hogan had been keeping records, lots of them. But the most shocking discovery came when they noticed a section of the shelf with a label reading, "Private files, do not remove." Every tape was neatly organized except one slot that stood empty. The missing tape was labeled in bold, black marker, "Truth." What was on that tape? Why was it missing? And who took it before the FBI arrived? These were the questions that would ignite a storm of speculation, transforming what began as a tragic death into a full-scale federal investigation. And as the agents would soon learn, the secrets hidden in Hulk Hogan's mansion were darker than anyone could have imagined. The discovery of the missing VHS tape labeled Truth sent shockwaves through the FBI's on-site investigation. Agents immediately sealed off the room and cataloged every remaining item, photographs, journals, and camcorders, all of which appeared to document decades of Hulk Hogan's personal and professional life. Yet the one tape missing seemed to be the most important of all. An agent on the scene later described the atmosphere inside the mansion as eerily silent, almost as though the house itself was guarding its secrets. The tapes dated back to the early 1980s, Hogan's golden years. Most were labeled with event names or dates: WrestleMania 2, Backstage 1987, Linda Interview, and Personal Archive. But as they dug deeper, they found another pattern. Certain tapes had red stickers marked confidential, and many referenced meetings not publicly known to have occurred. One journal entry stood out. It was dated 2 weeks before his death and read, "They're close. The tape can't fall into the wrong hands. It's proof of everything." Investigators couldn't ignore the implication. Whatever was on that missing tape wasn't just sentimental memorabilia. It was evidence. But evidence of what? The FBI initiated a quiet but high-priority investigation involving their cybercrime and counterintelligence divisions. They obtained warrants for Hogan's email servers, his phone records, and even his cloud storage accounts. Early findings revealed Hogan had recently exchanged encrypted messages with a former wrestling promoter who'd disappeared from the public eye years ago. The tone of their communication was tense. Hogan appeared desperate to retrieve something that had been stolen from him. Neighbors reported seeing unfamiliar figures near the mansion in the days leading up to his death. One described a man wearing a dark hoodie lurking by the security gate at 2 a.m., while another swore she saw a woman leaving the property carrying a small black case. Yet, when questioned, the estate's cameras had conveniently gone offline that same night. Coincidence or sabotage? As the FBI combed through Hogan's remaining footage, they uncovered moments that painted a picture of a man haunted by betrayal. In one recording from 2019, Hogan sat alone in his living room, speaking directly into a camera. "I've seen too much, brother. And if I go down, I'm taking the truth with me." That line alone became the centerpiece of the federal report. Meanwhile, media outlets began to catch wind of the investigation. Tabloids claimed the missing tape contained footage of powerful figures involved in illegal dealings from the wrestling industry's golden era. Others suggested it exposed a private feud between Hogan and a major television executive over millions in unpaid royalties. But what made the public even more suspicious was the FBI's silence. They refused to release any information or comment on the nature of what they had found. One insider leak, however, added fuel to the fire. According to an unnamed agent, the missing tape contained evidence linking a decades-old financial scheme involving several entertainment companies, and Hogan may have been keeping it as insurance. He allegedly hinted about this in an interview years prior, saying, "In this business, you keep proof, always." Still, as days turned into weeks, no suspects emerged. Hogan's close friends were questioned. His ex-wife Linda cooperated fully, telling agents that Hogan had grown distant, spending nights rewatching old matches and locking himself in his office for hours. "He told me once that he couldn't trust anyone anymore," she revealed. "I thought it was just the fame getting to him again. Now I'm not so sure." Forensic experts also confirmed something alarming. The lock on the secret room showed no signs of forced entry, meaning whoever took the tape either knew Hogan's security code or had been granted access willingly. That discovery shifted the investigation's focus inward. The agents began looking closely at Hogan's inner circle, his assistants, business partners, and even family members. The question haunting everyone wasn't just who took the tape, but what was worth killing for. And when the FBI traced Hogan's last phone call before his death, the name that appeared on the report left investigators speechless. The deeper the FBI dug into Hulk Hogan's final days, the more chilling the evidence became. Investigators eventually traced Hogan's last recorded phone call, made just 19 minutes before his death. The name attached to that call was both shocking and deeply personal. His former business manager, Richard "Rick" Fenton, a man Hogan had publicly fired over a decade ago after accusing him of financial betrayal. Fenton, now living in Miami, was quickly brought in for questioning. His initial reaction was strange, calm, almost rehearsed. He claimed Hogan had called him in a panic, insisting someone was coming to take something from his home. "He sounded scared," Fenton said. "He told me, 'Rick, they found me. The truth's not safe here anymore.'" Then the line went dead. The FBI found Fenton's story compelling but inconsistent. Phone records confirmed the call took place, but Hogan's tone, according to voice analysts, was agitated but determined, not panicked. This difference raised suspicions. Why would Hogan, moments before his death, reach out to a man he hadn't spoken to in years? And more importantly, what was this truth he feared would be taken? Agents began retracing Hogan's last 48 hours. Surveillance footage from a gas station near Clearwater showed him filling up his car late at night. He looked tense, constantly checking over his shoulder. At one point, he pulled out his phone, hesitated, and then placed it back in his pocket. A witness later told police, "He looked like someone who knew he was being watched." Inside the mansion, Hogan's security logs revealed multiple code entries to the private archive room in the week leading up to his death. Only two people besides Hogan had access: his longtime housekeeper and his nephew, Brian Bolea. When interviewed, both appeared shaken. Brian claimed he hadn't seen his uncle for days before the tragedy. The housekeeper, however, told a different story. According to her testimony, Hogan had been acting unusually anxious. He would pace the hallways at night and often sit by his office door as if guarding it. The night before his death, she heard raised voices coming from the study. "He wasn't alone," she said. "I heard a man's voice, deep and angry. But when I went to check, no one was there." The FBI found no physical signs of struggle, no broken glass, no forced entry. Yet the coroner's report added an unsettling layer. While Hogan's official cause of death was listed as cardiac arrest, toxicology results revealed traces of a sedative that had not been prescribed to him. The dosage wasn't lethal on its own, but when combined with certain heart medications Hogan was taking, it could trigger cardiac failure. When this information reached the media, theories exploded. Fans accused everyone from business rivals to entertainment executives of foul play. Some even believed the missing truth tape might have contained evidence of corruption within the wrestling world, something powerful enough for someone to silence Hogan permanently. Behind closed doors, the FBI worked relentlessly to decrypt Hogan's digital archives. What they found was a collection of scanned letters and encrypted files labeled Project Legacy. Within them were financial statements, email exchanges, and contracts involving multiple major entertainment brands. The files suggested that Hogan had been investigating a multi-million-dollar laundering operation dating back to the 1990s, implicating several high-profile names. The missing tape, investigators now believed, might have been the visual confirmation of that evidence, a record of meetings, conversations, or confessions. It wasn't just about money. It was about control, manipulation, and the dark side of celebrity influence. Meanwhile, the more the FBI unraveled, The more Hogan's death looked less like natural causes and more like a carefully staged event. The question wasn't only who had taken the tape, but how many people were willing to bury the truth with him. By the time the Bureau finished cataloging Hogan's mansion, they had one last haunting clue, a handwritten note tucked beneath the edge of his mirror. Weeks after Hulk Hogan's death, the FBI's investigation had turned into one of the most secretive celebrity cases in recent history. Rumors were everywhere, some claiming Hogan had been silenced, others insisting the missing tape was sold to the highest bidder. But behind closed doors, federal agents were making progress, slow, silent, and unsettling. It was a young digital forensics analyst who made the breakthrough. While examining Hogan's encrypted files, he noticed fragments of corrupted video data buried inside a hidden folder. After hours of decryption, the system revealed something extraordinary, the first 20 seconds of the missing truth tape. The footage opened with Hogan sitting in a dimly lit room, wearing a black tank top and a solemn expression. He spoke directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it, brother. They told me to keep quiet, but I can't." The screen glitched before cutting to static. That short clip was enough to confirm what the FBI had suspected. Hogan had recorded the tape himself. It wasn't a performance or staged moment, it was a confession. But what followed after those missing seconds remained unknown. The rest of the tape was gone, either destroyed or stolen. To trace its disappearance, agents revisited everyone connected to Hogan's inner circle. Suspicion once again fell on Rick Fenton, the ex-manager. However, new evidence pointed elsewhere. One of Hogan's storage units, leased under an alias, had been cleared out days before his death. Surveillance footage from that facility showed a man in a baseball cap and sunglasses, roughly matching the build of Hogan's nephew, Brian. But when confronted, Brian denied any involvement, claiming he had no idea the storage even existed. The FBI couldn't confirm his guilt, but they also couldn't clear his name. The case hit a dead end until a private investigator hired by Hogan's estate made a stunning discovery. Hidden inside one of Hogan's vintage cars was a second hard drive. On it were scanned pages of Hogan's final handwritten journal entries. The last entry, dated 2 days before his death, read, "The truth will outlive me. The tape is my shield. I've hidden a copy where they'll never look, beneath what they fear most, my legacy." Those words reignited the search. Agents interpreted legacy as a reference to Hogan's memorabilia collection. They returned to the mansion and began inspecting every championship belt, trophy, and plaque. Then, in a locked display case holding his first WWE title belt, they found a false compartment. Inside, it was a small, dust-covered USB drive. When they plugged it in, the drive contained fragments of audio and partial transcripts from the missing tape. In it, Hogan spoke about secret business meetings involving powerful entertainment executives, backroom deals, and contracts that ruined lives. The recordings suggested a long-standing web of manipulation and blackmail stretching back to the 1980s. The FBI quietly sealed the evidence. The official statement released weeks later was vague. No criminal activity confirmed. Investigation ongoing. But insiders claimed the recordings were so explosive they could have destroyed multiple industries overnight. Publicly, Hogan's death was ruled natural. Privately, the agents on the case were told to move on. The file was marked classified and locked away in federal archives under restricted access. As the months passed, Hogan's mansion was sold, his possessions auctioned off. But whispers persisted. Claims that a full copy of the truth tape still existed somewhere out there. Some said Hogan had mailed it to a trusted friend before he died. Others believed it was buried in a storage locker in another state, waiting to be found. For his fans, the legend of Hulk Hogan grew beyond the ring. He wasn't just the man who told millions to say their prayers and eat their vitamins. He became a mystery, a symbol of how even heroes can carry secrets too heavy for the world to bear. And while the world may never know the full story behind what the FBI found in Hulk Hogan's mansion, one thing remains undeniable. The truth he tried to protect didn't die with him. It only went deeper underground.